the some problem with the slide. Okay, so yeah, so now the thrust areas of homeopathy we have seen, which are the very effective arenas where we can work. So what can we do in malignancies? So in malignancies, we generally focus on the cases which are at a terminal stage. So if a patient, whatever can be done effectively for the patient in the early stage, always we leave those patients or we refer them to conventional treatment. So then where can we work in malignancies? It is always as an add-on where chemotherapy or radiotherapy is referred, or where the stage of the disease is beyond the scope of surgery, or those malignancies which are coming in a geriatric age group where those patients are too sick to endure any conventional treatment, or when surgical intervention is not possible, or where a radiation and chemotherapy has got its limitations. And always the symptoms like anorexia, dyspepsia, nausea, vomiting, hiccup, cachexia, cancer fatigue, pain management, all whatever be the malignancy, uh, these uh, these distressing symptoms can always be effectively tackled. So, but each case differs as to the how the patient now, which level of health the patient stands. For example, what can we do in oral cancers? The effective management of ulcerative lesions, or whether it is pain management, dysphagia, altered sensations, dysarthria, etc. In CA esophagus, maybe it is the treatment of mucositis where we can do effectively, dysphagia, or managing the nausea, vomiting, etc. In CS stomach, the cancers which are beyond the stage of resection, or those relapsing cases, or whether it is the pain which has to be managed, or anorexia, etc. In colorectal cancers, the rectal discharges, bleeding, perineal pelvic pains, etc. Those are the unpleasant and difficult symptoms. And diarrhea or constipation, as in a palliative patient, always maybe the pain also is related, can also be related to a constipation. So if we are effectively managing the constipation, the pain reduces to a larger extent. And in hepatocellular carcinoma, to palliate with the pain, or if it is a metastatic or a primary cancer of the liver where resection can't be supported, or whether we can always see, as all those people who work with cancers have seen, that they have effective cases where the tumor size has reduced, or even the tumors have reversed from the liver. And in pancreatic cancers, anorexia and pain management. So these are the certain areas, or certain all the different types of cancers where these set of symptoms can be effectively managed. And so now let me come into a few examples of now where our intervention has made a difference. So this is one case of adenocarcinoma lung with the METs to bone and spine. This patient has one leg amputated, living in a hilly terrain where vehicles can't reach. So this patient always used to have a respiratory infection and had to be taken on a stretcher, and 4 5 people have to support her to carry her down after walking 15 minutes. The patient always has to be carried in a chair or a stretcher to move from the house to the road and then to the hospital. So after our team and homeopathic medicine was given to the patient was put effectively on home care alone, and no intervening respiratory infections arose while the patient was on treatment. The patient lived for almost 10 months and had a peaceful death at home. So, in spite of this being an adenocarcinoma lung case, the patient never had to be put on a supportive measures and did not require an oxygen therapy. And as you can see, this patient, uh, even at this stage, is very pleasant and calm. and the patient died with a cardiac arrest. So the major intervention here is the patient could be effectively managed at a home care setting, and the hospitalizations had did not happen after that. And also the patient had to and the patient's family always had a very calm mind after the patient was managed at home. So this is a second case. This is a case of myoclonic seizures of 30-year-old male. And as we had taken at the stage where we had taken the patient, he used to have 30 to 40 seizures per day with a lot of drugs going in, and frequent upper respiratory infections and hospitalizations. As you can see, this patient is very obese, and here again the patient's family had a lot of trouble moving the patient to the hospital every time he had an upper respiratory infection. He also used to choke. There was always aspiration related issues for this patient because his seizure used to come even while having food. So the outcome of the treatment was the seizure rates reduced to less than 10 when our medicine started going in. And the patient's doctor also tapered his anti-epileptic medications and put him just on two drugs after that. And when all the drugs were tapered, and after the patient seizure rates reduced, there was an improvement in awareness. The patient could smile and even could identify his mother's tone after that. And uh, the most significant thing was a reduced rate of respiratory infections. And again, as in the previous case, no hospitalizations were required after the homeopathic. Even with acutes, we could give our medicine and the patient became well even with our medications. So this is again a case of CA ovary with metastasis. So I've just put in little examples from different types of cases. So here, this is an advanced metastatic stage. As you can see, the whole abdomen is distended, and what you see there as a swelling is actually a metastasis there at the umbilicus, a very hard mass. But this is post chemotherapy. The patient always used to fall sick and with multiple peritoneal and omental deposits. So after the patient was on our treatment, as you can see, the patient has now put on weight. Now the patient can come to the hospital by herself, and there is symptom relief, better quality of life. And after 1 year, we did the CT, and there was no disease progression. So that is what our intervention has helped in this case. And this is a case of acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Here, as you can see, it is a rare type, CD13 MLL type. When this baby was brought to us, it was just 4 months. And it was a case where chemotherapy was deferred following severe pneumonia and UTI. So when the patient, father and mother were given the verdict that the baby is not going to live for more than a few weeks with chemotherapy deferred and with a very bad blood picture. So after our treatment, there was a very two significant observations. No intercurrent infections happened in between. No transfusion was required. There was an alteration in the blood picture. And the baby moved on to the next milestone, as you can see. But unfortunately, the baby passed away after. The baby was taken to a different district for a home ceremony. There she acquired an infection, and then she died in 2 days. So as long as she was in Trivandrum, we could manage. There were two fever, mild fever episodes, but no respiratory infections, and that fever episode could be managed with our medication. And this is again a different case, a non-healing venous ulcer with maggots. So this case has been on treatment at the hospital district conventional hospital for 17 years, going for dressing every day. But in spite of that, we can see the bad state of ulcer. So here, within 3 months, we have a healed ulcer. And even in the second follow-up visit, the patient started to have a relief of the pain. We removed almost 30 maggots initially, but in 3 months' time, the patient's ulcer was healed, and then the patient was discharged. This is again another case of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. When the patient was first was seen, it is again a home care patient. The patient was completely bedridden on a Ryle's tube, um, and had no hope of living because it was a rapidly deteriorating condition. But after the patient started our medication, even in second month's visit, we could see that the patient had improved regarding the removal of the Ryle's tube. He could have food, and also there was a general improvement in speech and motor functions. He could be shifted to a wheelchair from that small window. Then again, he started observing the life outside. So now the patient can sit and move in a wheelchair. So that is a very drastic improvement, because why in 2 months time the improvement was started. We started noticing the changes, the positive changes in him. So this is a neurological example what of where our medicine can effectively intervene. And this neuroblastoma with liver mets, when the small boy was brought to us, it was 1 year and 6 months. And a neuroblastoma after eight chemotherapies at the regional cancer center, no reduction in size. Again, the treatment was deferred. Here you can see the different scan reports. Initially, when the size, you can see that the size is mentioned here. And after and the residual metastatic lesions also, as you can see in the first scan report, you can see that there is a 4 point, you can see a residual soft tissue density in the left lower neck extending to the posterior mediastina. So 4.5 into 2.1 into 2. And again, in the second follow-up, you can see that the residual metastasis is reducing. And now in this report, you can see that there is no mass lesion. But the most significant improvement is here. We can see that the size has reduced now to 1/3, and the improvement in general well-being. So here, all the infections thereafter was controlled with our acute medications. And the patient had to be admitted in our hospital as an IP patient when fever episodes came. Now the boy is 4-year-old. As you can see that the child is now very happy, and the significant evidence-based report as no residual lesion in the liver. Plus, you can see that the 1/3 of the size of the neuroblastoma reduction has happened. So this again is another case of retroclival meningioma with the metanophthalmic adenoma. As you can see, the patient has the conventional treatment, but it was deferred because of his ill health. So after the second follow-up itself, the patient started to have an improvement in the symptom. And here, the patient is now coming every 2 weeks to the OP. Now the patient does not have any symptom, and the patient, as being a tailor, has now gone back, has resumed his work. So this was a case where surgery was indicated, but the patient now can pull on without even surgery. So this is again another case of a renal cell carcinoma with brain mets. Here, the patient was a very sick state, but after, you can see second follow-up after 2 weeks, you can see a much improvement. Here again, after a month, the patient is still improving. symptomatically, the patient is not having any of the earlier symptoms or pain. And this is a case of a child, hydrocephalus post craniopharyngioma excision. And as you can see here, we can see that there is a right hemiparesis grade 2, and has been put on limb physiotherapy. And when we first saw the patient, the child, she was just lying there without any consciousness, and not able to talk or not aware of whatever is going on. So after a few follow-ups, this is the change. Now the patient, she is able to recognize her parents and identify them by the name. Her memory has come back. Now she sings. This is today's. This is actually the very recent today. So this is again another case of CA prostrate with skeletal lung and lymph node metastasis. As you can see, the patient is 78-year-old, and no treatment, no conventional treatment was possible, and the patient was left to palliative care without any intervention, because the patient was very sick. So here, after treatment, the two-member support stage, the patient improved to that stage, and now you can see within 2 weeks what change the patient has undergone from 22/7 to 15/8. Now the patient himself is relating the symptoms, but the most important and significant change is we can see the PSA levels. On the 7th month, it is on July, it is 875, and here we can see in December it has dropped down to 2.48, and now here during this last month, it has again dropped down to 2.21. So this is how the patient is now. The patient is now walking around the house, very happy. So this is again another example of this is a Parkinson's disease. This is a young onset Parkinson's case where the patient was also having too much of syndopa. In spite of that, this is the stage when we had him. So this is after 1 day. This is also a home care patient. After 1 day, after a week, this is now, after 8 months. These are the cases of DMD. We have a few cases of Duchenne muscular dystrophy children who have improved when our medicine also is given. The frequency of falls have reduced. This is again a case of glioblastoma. As you can see, in 3 months' time, what the changes, and the patient no longer has any seizures, no headaches. This is again the patient had residual lesion which was
Hello, doctor.
increasing in size. That is when we can see that there is an
Yes, yes,
improvement in even the limb movement.
Could you please extend my slot from half an hour to 1 hour?
Doctor, if you then get it 1.5 hour, doctor.
1.5 hour.
Because
okay,
of
give
that.
me then 1.5 hour.
Okay, you get one more, two more patients of yours from anywhere in the world, then it will be okay.
Yeah, I will.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, can I continue?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is another case of, as you can see, a case of stroke, and the patient. ഞാൻ കസേരയിലോട്ട് പോയതൊക്കെ കയറിയിരുന്ന് നോക്കിക്കേ. This is also a home care patient. Okay, this is on Jan, the second picture is on December. So see the improvement. So a few other examples. Another case, as you can see, the patient was in a very sorry state, a very pathetic state, always having seizures, but now the patient's seizure rates have come down, and you can see a pleasant patient. This is again a home care patient. So this is a few examples where we also have like the non-healing ulcers, bed sore, how we are effectively managing. So this is the quality of life scale which can be used to see the improvement. And so the scope of the scope of homeopathic interventions in palliative care is always the possibility to effectively incorporate both homeopathic therapeutic intervention with palliative care services with least economic burden, and the quality of life, as you can see in all these cases, terminally ill cases where the hope was given up for the patient and for their relatives, how the quality of life has improved with least therapeutic burden. So the outcome of homeopathic intervention in palliative care is effective symptom control, and pain management is observed when individualistic homeopathic medicine is selected. And the quality of life improvement is noticed in patients, and a cost-effective long-term treatment could be offered. So as we know, the domain of palliative care always is a very long-term. It always involves a long duration. So the cost effectivity, when even a long-term treatment is highlighted, so what homeopathy can offer is very, very beneficial. And so as we know now, the continuity life, as we started the talk by understanding that life, of course, is a continuous process, is continuum. The continuity of life is never broken, and always, right from birth till death, we may face with different obstacles in the form of diseases and distresses. But what we can do effectively is always, in a homeopathic viewpoint, when we consider the patient, in a holistic viewpoint, there is a very effective strategy, and the suffering of the patient can be minimized to whatever possible limits by offering a homeopathic help. And hope, where hope is, even for a dying patient, there is hope, because the patient always have again now the hope that at least he can have a peaceful death. So I think that is what we observe, that is what I think I have to share here. When we are seeing the patients at a very terminal stage, even in the deathbed, the patient is dying with the least distress, and sometimes even in the hospital we can see that the patient is passing away as if going to sleep. So that is the least suffering that they undergo at the given diagnostic stage. So hope always can be offered to a terminally ill patient, to a chronic patient, to a cancer patient, to a neurological patient, so even to a dying patient. So hope is important in both the living and the dying. And the majority of the hope, and it always focuses in the palliative purview on the patient hope and the factors influencing the patient hope. So our intervention, our medication, our care is one factor which influences the patient's hope. And it being an important role in coping up, can also influence the body's will to fight against diseases, and definitely it enhances the quality of life. And death, it is a very inevitable, and it is a very fixed philosophy. But if you are uh, born, you have to die. But we can always offer the very best even in death with homeopathy. So dear friends, this is what I would like to share with you. Perspectives might differ, but its rationale lies in an integrated and interdisciplinary approach of all medical systems. What we always do is always for the betterment of humanity, and in homeopathy, we can do our best. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. My name is Faisal Melody. Madam, it's a wonderful session and wonderful education you are giving to us. Openly speaking, we are me having an awareness about that. This pain and palliative care center only can do support with the allopathic system, and we do have many pain and palliative care center throughout our village. And as an expatriate Indian in working in Dubai, I have associated many years with many pain and palliative care center, but it was through all this allopathic system. Now, my concern is that, madam, this pain and palliative care center working independently or associating with the this allopathic system, or we do have a separate the network system or separate pain and palliative care center. Can you just have an idea about it? Because
Okay.
I can do more work on this homeopathic pain and palliative care center, as throughout my experience, many centers are we are looking after. Could you just give an idea about how you are working throughout the Kerala? Thank you very much.
This in our department, this department of homeopathy is working independently as a homeopathic healthcare providers alone, because this is our district hospital. Where I work is a district hospital of homeopathy alone, and all the patients who come there are coming only for homeopathic care. So in all over the state, this homeopathic hospitals are there in every district. So there are 14 hospitals in 14 districts, and each district hospital has patients in the settings where homeopathic medicines are given, and these cases are managed exclusively with homeopathic medications and homeopathic care.
All right, madam. So this independent pain and palliative care center, we do have a separate center or charitable center or only for this government center in district wise only? And there is no, independent organization or something like that we are seeing in other allopathic center. For example, we have made many care center in different places, and they're working independently in a charity basis. So, is there any service we are doing, or only a single center in single district like that? That is our
Okay.
mode of system.
How the operational system in our state is, in our homeopathic department, there are homeopathic dispensaries. Each dispensaries are there in a particular region. So, and the network of dispensaries are connected through, it is through the local, at a grassroots level. So at the dispensaries, the patients are seen by individual doctors, and each district has got a district hospital. Sometimes there will be a regional hospital. So those cases which require an inpatient care are referred to these district hospitals from the dispensaries. And also the district hospitals have got patients coming straight away for their through their OPs also. So it is always an exclusively homeopathic care setting at a regional wise, at a district wise. And there is a homeopathic college, 5 different colleges in the state, where since the palliative care is now an integral component of the healthcare system of the state of Kerala, as you can see that the state of Kerala was the first state to implement the palliative policy in 2008. So the Department of Homeopathy followed suit in 2017 by taking in this palliative policy and defining our services also by putting up pain and palliative project. So that is why we have one day as a palliative OP in each district hospital, where the patients can come in not only on that day but on other days too as well. But we see the patients exclusively, those palliative patients we see in this OP, plus the patients are also referred from the dispensaries. But I am not aware of any private organization which exclusively sees patients in a palliative setting. They have other organizations where they also give provision for the patient to take in homeopathic system of medicine. But I am yet to understand and see whether there is some private organizations where exclusive homeopathic care is given. As far as I know, maybe Sethi sir can. Sethi sir, Dr. Seth has a organization where he sees cancer cases with exclusive homeopathic medicines. Yes. So other centers I'm not aware of, but this is the framework in a government setup.
All right, madam. Thank you very much. That's